Welcome to Apple Teeny, where Apple rumors, AI weirdness, and tech drama get the brisk treatment. Today's menu has fake panic over a supposedly chunky iPhone, Siri faceplanting at basic tasks, and OpenAI maybe reinventing the smart speaker like nobody already tried that. Apple Intelligence is cleared for China, but this is way less cinematic than it sounds. The approval mostly means Apple can ship there using locally compliant models from Baidu and Alibaba, not some triumphant rollout of Apple's own magic brain. So if you were imagining a giant breakthrough, probably don't. This feels more like paperwork finally got stamped. And the expectation here is basically the usual Apple AI lag. China gets the feature, but likely on a long runway that could look a lot like a 2-year delay. A listener brought up a rumor that the iPhone 18 Pro would be 2 millimeters thicker than the 17 Pro, which would be an absolutely wild jump. That rumor got swatted down fast because the dummy model numbers are more like 8.75 millimeters for the 17 Pro and around 9.0 for the 18 Pro. That is not a brick, that is barely a mood swing. It's a good reminder that dimension rumors need actual comparison before everybody starts posting like Apple made a battery pack with cameras. Financial Times says Apple sent legal preservation letters to around 40 former employees who left for OpenAI, telling them not to delete work-related material in case it shows up in Discovery. That by itself is serious enough, but then there's the bizarre extra detail that the notice was reportedly misemailed by NBC, which is such a strange garnish on this story. At the same time, Mark Gurman says Apple is in early settlement talks with the DOJ over the 2024 antitrust case, and draft materials have already been exchanged. Honestly, the skepticism around the DOJ's case makes sense, especially the whole super apps framing, which has always sounded mushy. And if current DOJ leadership would rather settle than drag this through years of litigation, that would surprise exactly no one. The really unglamorous Apple AI story is that some watchOS 27 users are seeing Siri struggle with basic fast interactions. Setting a timer can take forever, adding something to a shopping list can make the wrong list, or just silently fail, which is maybe the most insulting version of failing. That's the part that matters. AI can demo beautifully, but if the quick little everyday actions get slower or less reliable, people bail immediately. There was also a listener question about whether Siri could remember personal facts that aren't sitting in your email or notes. The idea floating around is some kind of memory layer, maybe tied to iCloud synced notes, but then you run into the obvious problem. If Siri has to keep checking a growing pile of personal memory, that can get clunky fast. For now, the workaround is basically stuffing your custom instructions into notes and explicitly pointing Siri at them, which is functional but very much not the dream. On the happier side, macOS Golden Gate sounds like a relief. It rolls back the Tahoe sidebar obsession and returns to classic toolbars, which for a lot of long-time Mac users is just cleaner, easier, and less fussy. That kind of change matters more than flashy marketing. If the interface gets out of your way, you feel it immediately. There's also a Siri-aware spotlight that can switch between typed search and voice query modes. Apparently, invoking Siri through Spotlight has a little sluggishness, which is annoying, but overall the redesign sounds practical instead of performative. I'll take practical every time. Apple's photo tools are also doing that classic AI thing where they're useful and slightly unsettling in the same breath. Extend can uncrop a photo by generating extra pixels so it fits a different aspect ratio, which is great if you're trying to rescue framing for a wallpaper or social post. The catch is privacy, because that processing may happen in the cloud, and people should absolutely care about where their photos are going. Cleanup also has a high-quality cloud mode that beats the on-device version pretty clearly. But both can spit out weird artifacts, especially around faces. So this is not a fire-and-forget button. Zoom in before you commit to your haunted new family portrait. Then there's the report that OpenAI is building a Wi-Fi smart speaker with a battery, a camera, and some mechanical feature that's supposed to convey emotion. It's being pitched as the first AI home computer, which is a very grand way to describe something that currently sounds a lot like an Echo or HomePod with ChatGPT and extra theatre. Maybe there's more to it, but on the surface, this feels like a tough sell when everyone already has a smartphone in their hand that does the useful part. A speaker blinking at me with mechanical feelings is not automatically a product category. One of the smarter complaints in the mix here is about tech journalism's love of the cheap gotcha. You'll see stories stapling stock price moves onto basically unrelated reporting, like tossing in that Sonos dipped after an Apple AI article, as if that explains anything meaningful. A lot of that framing just turns news into vibes trading. And the wider dunk cycle doesn't really help either. It punishes reporters, rewards performative posting, and somehow leaves everyone less informed. The better move is boring but correct. Debunk carefully, compare the actual numbers, and report deeper instead of faster. Finally, Apple Music went up by $1 a month after Spotify raised prices, and Apple's social post bragging that it was still at February prices, aged at record speed. That got mocked, deservedly, because posting a smug little pricing flex right before your own increase is just setting money on fire for no reason. But the larger point is even funnier. These reactive price moves and mini social media victory laps barely matter long term. Most people forget the exact price a few months later. The gotcha moment lives for a day, and the subscription quietly keeps charging everybody forever. That's it for Apple Teeny. If your smart speaker develops emotions before Siri can reliably make a shopping list, we'll all need a minute. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.